talk to me for a second about the fire recovery.
Yes, absolutely. I am excited about it. But I will tell you, though, if I lost my house or people who've lost their house, it's one thing to hear a politician say things are going really fast, things are going really well, but I'm still out of my house.
Yeah.
And so until people are back in their homes, it's not going to be okay. But we have made progress, and I am committed to sticking with it until every single person is back home.
How are you?
And I only represent the Palisades, by the way.
That's true. How are you helping people get back in their homes specifically?
The main thing is making sure that when they are ready to rebuild, they don't face the problems, the hurdles, the red tape that we have within our cities.
Hey, I want to thank you for tuning into today's podcast episode. This is the interview with Mayor Karen Bass. This is something that I have looked forward to for a long time because the sentiment in this city is as low as I've seen it because we have so many different issues going around right now. Crime, homelessness, housing, Hollywood, downtown, fire recovery. And frankly, it's not just the narrative from outside. It's people in Los Angeles that are sad, frustrated, angry with this city and the state of what's happening. And that's why I wanted to have Mayor Karen Bass on today to discuss her perspective, what she's doing about it, and frankly, what people are perceiving as failures of leadership. So listen, I tried to get to the major issues. I received 1,200 comments on a post that I posted last night as far as what I should ask Mayor Bass. I received 300 additional DMs. There was a lot to dig through, and I tried my best to cover all of that. We had a very limited time, so I got to the main points. I feel that we did a good job covering a lot of ground. I'm not here to attack her. I'm here to ask her questions, and I ask difficult questions that are weighing on me, and you know how I feel. I'm always honest about this stuff. The city's direction is at best questionable right now. And we all want to uplift Los Angeles and make this the greatest city on the globe. And that starts with the mayor. So I ask that you watch this interview with an open mind and an open heart and hope that we have the potential issues identified and some solutions that we can start improving Los Angeles. And that will start with Mayor Karen Bass. Feel free to reach out to me, DM, email, evan@lainaminute.com. I will always respond. And you know what? I hope you enjoy this interview and at least find it informative. And there will be a part 2. So without further ado, let's get into it. Yo, welcome to another episode of In a Minute with Evan Lovett, coming to you live from the I Am Studios in the heart of LA. And I'm here with the head of LA, that is Mayor Karen Bass, who is generous enough with her time to join us in the studio for a brief and efficient but important interview. So Mayor Bass, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. And I want to give a thank you to our sponsor, Arto Brick. Arto Brick is a 3rd-generation legacy business in Los Angeles, providing jobs, and most importantly, providing brick and tile for historic landmarks in Los Angeles. Olvera Street, Mariachi Plaza, St. Vibiana, USC. So they are doing the work of restoring and rehabilitating Los Angeles while providing jobs from their factory and manufacturing center down in Gardena. So thank you, Arto Brick. And since I know time is limited, we are going to jump right into it. Okay, Mayor Bass.
Yes.
You are well aware of the issues afflicting Los Angeles today.
I am.
Homelessness, crime, deterioration downtown Los Angeles.
Cleanliness.
Struggles in the production industry in Hollywood, which I call the heart of Los Angeles industry-wise. It built our city. The ICE raids, fire recovery, closure of mom and pop shops and small businesses and legacy restaurants that are happening at a seemingly breakneck pace, affordable housing and rent. There's no shortage of issues.
We have a lot of challenges for the nation's 2nd largest city.
A lot of challenges. Woo. And here's the big thing for me is sentiment in Los Angeles right now. Not just the narrative about Los Angeles from the outside, but sentiment in Los Angeles is about as negative as I have ever seen it from people that love this city. And my question to you is, what are we going to do to turn the corner to change that sentiment, to start improving and building upon what really seems like a nadir in Los Angeles?
Well, let me just tell you, Evan, well, there's so much been going on in just this year alone that have contributed to that. And yet we are 11 months away from welcoming the world for the World Cup.
Right.
And one of the things that we have to do, obviously, we have to tackle every single one of those problems.
Right.
But we also have to get LA residents back involved in improving our city and viewing it as something that we are all invested in.
Right.
And I take responsibility as the mayor. As far as I'm concerned, the buck stops with me on all of the issues. And so I have to work night and day on those issues.
Right.
At the same time, I have to create efforts and avenues and activities that involve residents. So we've launched this program called Shine LA.
I am well aware. I reported on Shine.
I know you have, and we appreciate that
Yeah.
because we want to lift people's spirits. And what I've learned over the years, and I've been around for a while, so I've been through some really bad challenges,
Right.
earthquakes, civil unrest, climate change, all of the challenges that we faced. And one of the things that helps us get out of that is for people to be actively involved. But taking on those issues one by one,
Yeah.
even though we have some good statistics,
Yeah.
as long as people see tents, it's good to know that there's less tents than there were before, but there's still tents. There's still
Right.
people living on our street.
Correct.
And so for the last 2 years, number one, my focus, as you know, has been to get people off the streets,
Yeah.
but also fix this very broken system around homelessness
Right.
that has existed for the last 30 plus years. And there's Band-Aids here and Band-Aids there. The whole system needs to be blown up and recreated. However, I didn't want to spend time the first 2 years just focused on that.
Right.
My first goal was to get people off the streets. Second to that, really, or equal to that, is crime. It's good to know that crime is down 40%
Right.
in a long time, but there was a double homicide in Encino.
Right down.
So if you live here, if you live in Encino, you don't care that crime is down 40%. You want to know what I'm doing today about what happened a week ago.
Absolutely true.
So let me tell you what we're doing
Okay,
today about
okay.
that.
Yeah,
Number
please
one,
do, yeah.
people in the area will see a real increase in law enforcement on those streets. Instead of the police officers having roll call inside a police station,
Yeah.
they're going to do roll call out in the public so people see a show of force.
Okay.
You will see more cars out in the evening. And you know what? You're going to see the mounted patrols. Those are the horses.
Really?
What happened last year, because crime spikes, it goes down, it spikes,
Correct.
it goes down, it spikes. The last time there was a spike in this area, we did a full court press. We increased the presence, increased the investigations. Last year, the issue was criminal rings, criminal rings,
Correct.
some of them
Some
from
international.
overseas.
Correct.
And we were able to stop that. But stopping it doesn't mean it won't come back.
Right.
So it looks as though right now, and this is just preliminary, it looks as though the double homicide that happened last week was not connected to a criminal gang. It was an individual.
I saw that, and he actually called 911 on himself.
Yeah, which was
Interestingly
very
enough.
bizarre.
Yeah.
And so the question is this one of those mental health issues?
Right.
But I'm going to tell you something. That is a big passion of mine because I hate the way we deal with mental health.
And
We
that's-
need to hospitalize people regardless. It can't just be voluntary.
And that's a thing that I see firsthand in my neighborhood. You and I spoke after my house got broken into.
Right. That's right.
And, so crime has come literally to my doorstep. And I want to
And
say,
mine.
and yours, I heard about that as well. Absolutely. So, and again, too many people in Los Angeles have experienced that firsthand.
Right.
And that scares people. And the one thing that people want more than anything is safety.
To
right?
feel
And
safe.
So I'll tell you what happened after my break-in, and I spoke to a lot of people in LAPD.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned an increased show of force, not show of force, an increased presence on the streets,
Right.
Roll call, more publicly mounted police officers. There's a critical shortage in LAPD,
Oh, my God.
which in itself is an issue. I want to bring this up because the last time I brought up the LAPD, I received a lot of backlash about people saying we don't need more police.
Yes,
and
we
I
do.
know
Yes,
that
we do.
that is a hot button issue in
Yes, we
itself. that there are neighborhood coalitions or certain programs or advocacy groups that can sort of help in lieu of having actually more police on the street. But I know that there's a baseline number that we want to hit within the LAPD. So we have the number of officers on the street to protect the people in Los Angeles and make sure that we are safe and that we have enough police to be able to respond.
Let me just tell you something.
Yeah.
You got to do all of the above. I'm a big believer in a comprehensive approach. So when crime happens, you got to stop it. You got to hold people accountable to the full extent of the law. But one of the things I did was I started an Office of Community Safety to focus on preventing crime in the first place. It's not either or, it's both and. And for a city of 3.8 million people, we do not have enough officers.
Correct.
Chicago has half the number of people we do, 2 million people. They have 12,000 officers. We have 8,600, and we're going to lose several hundred officers by the end of the year because of retirements.
Right.
And you know what? There is a common belief that people don't want to be officers now, and so it's hard to recruit. Not true. We've actually recruited a number of people. Our problem in the city, that is one of my, you keep pushing my buttons, that's the problem, okay?
Okay.
Is the broken hiring system.
Right.
And so we've changed leadership at the personnel department. We've changed how the officers, the background checks, all the stuff that goes into it. We take so long that the recruits then wind up going and working for another police department.
I heard that firsthand. They'll go to Pasadena. They'll go to Beverly Hills.
Everywhere.
They'll go to Orange
So
County.
you know what? I've been very successful in recruiting police officers for everybody else's police department. And so that's what we have to fix is the hiring process. I was in a meeting, started off my week with this.
Yeah.
So we have, our new police chief in place. He's not that new, he's been there for a few months.
And he's experienced
yes,
previously.
We have a new head of personnel. We're changing the hiring process, especially the background checks. They told me it takes a long time to do a background check. Most of the people who are applying are in their 20s. How long? Hit Google.
Right.
You can find out
social media.
everything.
Yeah, you can see somebody just go in their profile.
Right.
And all the info.
Right. So that is a big passion of mine. We absolutely have to get the officers in. The World Cup is in 11 months. We need to have the officers. One of the other big problems, if you don't mind me, I go back
This is your platform. Absolutely.
Cleanliness.
Yes.
Why is the city so dirty? And so we, you just see random trash places, okay?
Trash, and may I say, and this was something that I discussed in a recent podcast, there are areas in the city, downtown specifically, and I love downtown, that smell like urine.
Yes.
Okay, let's tell the truth, okay? I was at LAX. I just flew back into LAX, and the first thing I smelled was the beautiful ocean breeze. And I was like, man, this is great being in LA, and you can smell the ocean at the airport. And then the next thing I smelled was the wafting smell of urine, which
not at the airport.
I was.
It was at the airport?
Was that in the area because we walked to the rideshare area, so it's a little bit out of the airport, which is a whole different issue. But it's a problem, and that's especially for somebody coming in from out of town. My wife and my son and I were discussing this. If you're vacationing in Los Angeles, and that's something that you're encountering right off the bat. And again, in downtown, in Hollywood, these tourist-centric areas, these important historic areas in Los Angeles, that's not acceptable.
Absolutely
trash
not acceptable.
and graffiti. And listen, I've been a proponent of what I call artistic graffiti. We've had Big Sleeps in here, we've had Ronick in here, Estevan Oriol. And there's artistry involved, but a lot now you're starting to see just the old school tagging that we used to see when I was growing up. And it's all over, and it's becoming more and more. And that's part of the issue of cleaning up the city, the graffiti, the urine, all this kind of stuff, where I don't want this to be New York in the 70s and 80s, which is some days how I feel when I'm driving around Los Angeles.
So let me just say, for those graffiti artists, can you put them in touch with me? Because instead of their initials, could they paint something?
Yeah.
I want to see murals.
Correct.
Because back in the day, we did that. We had murals.
Absolutely.
That's what, and you just think of all the freeways. See, again, this is something that is super important to me. I will tell you, though, I was surprised when I landed in Paris.
Yeah.
They had the same kind of graffiti, but it would be really nice if it was murals instead of initials. And so one of the things that I would like to do is to organize the graffiti artists and say, would you please, if we gave you this wall here, 12 feet, could you please paint a mural?
Absolutely. And we would love that. That's part of the LA culture.
So is that something we could work on together?
Absolutely. I would love that.
Pee at the airport? I'm not sure what that is. If I don't know something, I will tell you, okay?
Right.
I understand it downtown. Right. That's about homelessness.
Yeah.
And, even though we have decreased homelessness for the second year in a row, and that is like the first time in many, many, many years.
I saw that. Still 17.5%.
And that's street homelessness, okay? Correct. But again, it's so massive downtown that even though we have reduced it by hundreds, it's thousands of people there. So we have a long way to go. But I will tell you too, in Hollywood, we reduced street homelessness by 50%. Because I don't know if you remember earlier last year, you drive down Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, and it was like, we cannot have this.
Listen, during COVID and the aftermath of COVID, I and my wife and son and I love to drive around. We love to see the city. We like to go to different neighborhoods. And Hollywood, again, I've always said you cannot have a LA at its peak without having a strong, proud Hollywood.
Exactly.
And it was frankly embarrassing to drive through Hollywood thinking about the fact that tourists from around the world and in the United States, they always want to come to, let's go to see Hollywood. And you're like, oh no, please don't go to Hollywood.
That's why we focus there.
So it is improved. And I will say it is absolutely improved, but let's go back to the homeless issue as a whole. And this is the truth, okay, is I see the numbers, I see the stats, but I still see the tents, I still see the encampments. And I was out of the state for 6 days. And I walk across the LA River every day to get to this studio, my office where we work, where we produce the LA in a Minute with Evan Lovett. And there was a new encampment that popped up in the 6 days that I was out of the state. And it wasn't just one homeless, it's 3 tents, a gaggle of homeless people, open fire in the LA riverbed or the LA river banks, I'm sorry. And I'm like, man, it seems that, okay, I know there's progress being made. I know
not enough.
Correct. Not enough. How do we improve upon that? How do we make that a rapid pace improvement? I know that that's a pipe dream. The numbers
it's not a pipe dream. It is not a pipe dream. It isn't. Let me just tell you that it comes down, it boils down to money.
Yeah.
I will tell you, before I took office, everybody didn't think that it was just a money issue. They said, no, these people don't want to get off the street.
Right.
We know that they do. But what we have been doing, it does cost a lot of money. But everything that you pointed out, how much money does it cost to leave people on the street? There's parts of our city that the majority of the fires are because of homelessness.
Correct. Thank you.
You have businesses that people can't get through the door. No one wants to come anymore because of homelessness.
About that.
Yes, exactly. And we talk all the time. You remember Sunset Sound?
Yes.
Those tents have been cleared for over a year at Sunset Sound. You talk about school kids walking down the street. They shouldn't have to walk through needles. And, that should not happen.
Right.
So people complain, this costs too much money. What are you spending all this money for? We can reduce it even more. What we have been doing, we need to come up with a cheaper model.
Right.
So what we plan to do moving forward is use city-owned property and put up shelters. But what has happened over the years is that there's new and improved shelters where people have privacy, because people wouldn't go into shelters. That part of the myth was true.
Is this different than the tiny homes? Does this include Project Room Key? Are those all sort of different permutations of that?
They're different models, but it's, again, all of the above. It's all of the above. I'm not a big fan of tiny homes.
Right.
But nevertheless, all of that needs to be a part of the menu. Motels work, but they are really expensive. We're coming up with ways to reduce the cost. For example, instead of charging a nightly rate, leasing out the whole motel reduces the cost.
In aggregate, absolutely.
But we also, at the same time, Evan, one of the most important things we could do is prevent people from becoming homeless. You prevent the pipeline.
How do you do that?
We started an organization. I inherited a nonprofit organization called the Mayor's Fund.
Okay.
And so we are using strategies. The city council passed legislation that requires anybody that's facing eviction, those landlords have to register with the city. So we know the address, we know the names of the people who are facing eviction. We're reaching out to them and helping them prevent that eviction by linking them up with financial resources or legal resources. Let me tell you what I'm worried about now. The ICE raids. People who have been detained, you're talking about taking an income away from a household. So I've talked to some of the people who lost their spouses, their spouses were detained or whatever, and they're not sure how they're going to make the rent.
Right.
So we could have a whole new influx of homeless people because of policies like ICE. And what has happened over the years is politicians, and see, I can say that because I am one, politicians who pass policies don't think of the unintended consequences.
Right.
And some of those policies put people on the street.
Right. And now I don't know if the program is officially launched, but you mentioned that there's a financial aid component going towards victims of the ICE raids, let's say. Now, I want to ask you two things with this on two different sides. Number one, where's that money coming from?
No taxpayer.
Okay. How?
No taxpayers' money.
Where is that coming from?
Philanthropy.
Okay. And then number two is, what about people that say that, like, well, the law right now and the federal government is actually just enforcing that law and legally doing what they need to do.
The federal government needs to figure out what they want to do, okay?
Right.
Because they started by talking about criminals and violent people and cartels. I don't know about you, but I don't think that little lady selling pineapples is in a cartel.
No.
I'm not sure people in cartels work in car washes.
Right.
And I'm not sure they're day laborers.
Yeah.
Okay? So what the administration has done over this last 6-8 weeks is basically terrorize the city. Bringing in the military, the military wasn't needed. We had protests. Right. Those protests at the end devolved into a number of people vandalizing the graffiti. I was so mad at the graffiti. It was horrific. Right. Okay?
Right.
And that there was some looting that happened. I imposed a curfew. There has not been any looting. There have been a number of protests since then. Right. They've all been peaceful. So what the heck did we need the military for? You talk about wasting taxpayer money?
Yeah. Well,
for a stunt?
Well, you see that new budget, and that's a whole different issue.
But so that you're going to talk about something that could absolutely lead to homelessness?
Right.
Is that? But you know what? You could help us with one part of homelessness.
Go for it.
If you want to help us. Yeah. And that is veterans homelessness. Right. Okay? This is a perfect example of crazy ass policy. Ooh, excuse me.
No, go.
Crazy policy.
Yeah.
So if you are a veteran and you get your benefits, we say, like your disability benefits, we have housing vouchers. We had 3,000 unused housing vouchers in the city that we wouldn't give to veterans.
Right.
Because if you took your benefits, we said you made too much money. Your disability benefits versus your housing. So I joined the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I head up the ad hoc committee on homelessness. We took 100 mayors to D.C., to the White House, to the House, to the Senate. We spent over a year. We got the policy changed.
Right.
So now veterans can use these vouchers.
Right.
So we started at 3,000. We have about 1,400 now. So where you could be helpful is appealing to landlords to say, please take in a veteran, do your patriotic duty and take in a veteran. We have a voucher. So, and it pays. We have also the benefits that they have. So they'll have wraparound services. So if we could encourage people, we could get 1,400 more people off the street. We would essentially end veterans homelessness in the city.
Which is significant. And I want to iterate, thank you to all the veterans. Absolutely important. And we're very thankful for your sacrifice. And that's definitely a priority. And I will help any way I can in that. But I do want to address one thing about homelessness. This is just what I see. There are veterans. There are people that were evicted. There are affordable housing issues. Mm-hmm. But what I see a lot, specifically around where I live, are young, seemingly able-bodied homeless people that, frankly, I believe are drug addicts and drug users. Mm-hmm. And this is one part of homelessness that I don't know how we solve or how it's preventable, at least within the current system. But it's a big problem because to me, and what we've seen in my neighborhood and our break-in, these are the people that are committing some of the crimes
Yes,
in local
that's correct.
neighborhoods.
That's
And
correct.
it's not, you went back to people, homeless people want to be housed.
Yes.
It does seem, again, from my perspective, that that's not necessarily the case. You know, it's drug addicts whose minds aren't necessarily working properly. How do we address that part of homelessness? Because that's what I see, frankly, as the dangerous aspect of the homeless situation.
And you know, and let me make again reference to the money of getting people off the street. We can document in the encampments that we have cleared, crime goes down.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, you're going to pay one way or another.
Right.
I would rather pay to get people off the streets. I would rather pay for drug treatment.
Right.
But let me tell you about youth homelessness, because this is not everybody. But you talk about a policy that makes people homeless.
Yeah.
You know, foster youth are made homeless by policy.
Right.
When they turn 18 or 21, we literally cut them off of everything. Now, our kids who grew up middle class that had everything they could possibly need, not a one of them could survive when they're 18 if we cut them off.
Right.
They survive on their own because we will Zelle, we will give them, you know, access to a debit card. They rely on us financially.
Right.
These kids have nothing.
Yeah.
I will also tell you something about drugs. Some people become homeless because of their addiction. A lot of people become addicted because they're homeless. You use meth to stay awake at night so you can survive. So it can be the chicken and the egg.
How is that documented, by the way?
Oh yeah, it is definitely. I mean, I can give you that data to the extent that it is. But people will tell you that, hey, I needed to survive, especially women. And you know, the fastest growing sector of the homeless population are senior citizens.
Oh.
Senior citizens.
Is that due to housing?
It's due to housing, but just think about it. Somebody who worked in the service industry, who has no pension, no 401k, Social Security can't support you here if you have it.
Right.
You don't have the family that can take you in. Now, some of those people are the hidden homeless.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are so mentally ill, they don't even know they're on the street.
Right.
Which is why, with a medical background, I have passionately believed that some people should be hospitalized, whether they agree to it or not.
Okay, so this is an issue, again, that happened to me with a homeless person who was accosting my family and my son with skateboarding. And we called the police. They came promptly. Thank you, LAPD. And they were like, we're going to try to 5150. And they couldn't
3 days
qualify, but they couldn't even qualify him for the 5150. They're like, listen, we told him to leave the area, and that if he comes back, we're going to take him in.
No, we have to wait until he commits a crime.
Correct.
And then we'll do something.
But so now, and again, my son, 11 years old, he's a tough kid and he's a great kid, but now he doesn't want to go back to the church parking lot that we were skateboarding in because, you know, an incident occurred.
We right now do not have the tools to hospitalize somebody against their will.
Right.
And, you know, and a lot of people say it's a civil liberties issue.
Right.
But here's what baffles me.
Yeah.
Those same people that say it's a civil liberties issue don't seem to say that about locking somebody up. So we incarcerate instead of hospitalize. It costs a heck of a lot more money to incarcerate. You know, we have the nation's largest mental health facility. It's called the Twin Towers Jail.
Right. Oh.
Nobody says anything about that. You talk about policy where we wait until I can't do anything until that person hurts you.
Oof. And that's too late at that point.
Right.
At that point, it's too late.
We don't have the tools. That's state legislation.
Yeah.
Now we're creeping toward that, okay?
Right.
So a few years ago, the care court was passed. But that's voluntary. These people who don't even know whether they're inside or outside, why would they voluntarily agree to a conservatorship and for someone to take over their life? We have to have the tools. And what I believe, you know, is that the way to get that is you organize the families and we all know people who have a family member that is suffering from mental illness. They're the first ones that tell you, please lock up my relative, because I go to bed every night.
Yeah.
Waiting for that call that I know I'm going to get. Either my son or daughter has hurt somebody, will hurt somebody, or will be hurt.
Okay, Mayor Bass, an important thing that I've actually seen progress firsthand is the fire recovery in Altadena and Palisades. I know the Army Corps of Engineers has been on the ground,
Yes.
record pace,
Yes.
clearing properties and making sure that they're safe to rebuild. I know that there's red tape that's been lifted and facilitating some of the rebuilds. There have been programs through Governor Newsom and yourself that have kind of aided in the rebuilding. Talk to me for a second about the fire recovery.
Yes, absolutely. I am excited about it. But I will tell you, though, if I lost my house or people who've lost their house, it's one thing to hear a politician say things are going really fast, things are going really well, but I'm still out of my house.
Yeah.
And so until people are back in their homes, it's not going to be okay. But we have made progress, and I am committed to sticking with it until every single person is back home.
How are you?
And I only represent the Palisades, by the way.
That's true. How are you helping people get back in their homes specifically?
The main thing is making sure that when they are ready to rebuild, they don't face the problems, the hurdles, the red tape that we have within our city. So I started a one-stop rebuilding center. So you can go in one building and talk to all of the city departments, and they are under a time clock in terms of what they have to do to get the permit past their specific department and on to the next one.
Good. Helping facilitate that. And I have to ask this because this was a very common question that people were asking me to ask you is, where is the fire aid money? I know that there's this huge issue and people have been reporting on the $100 million plus of donations. I know that that's not going to LA City or through LA City.
No.
You're facilitating, but it is a big issue that people are talking about. So if you could address that.
Yeah,
for a second.
absolutely. That was 100% philanthropy.
Yeah.
Had absolutely nothing to do with the city.
Right.
But it's my understanding that the philanthropic organizations that were involved did grant a lot of that money to community-based organizations to give out to residents, especially the residents who worked in the area, who had businesses in the area, and who are not connected to other programs.
What do you say about the people who are saying, oh, I didn't see any money, or my business or my organization hasn't seen a dollar from the fire aid?
Right. Well, the only thing that I can say is that the philanthropic organizations were responsible for that. So I don't have an accounting of how they spent the money. But what I can say is that not $1 came to the city.
Can you commit to maybe putting their feet to the fire or pushing for an accountability?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have
see where that money went.
I would have no problem doing that. I would ask them what happened to the money. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on. And thank you for that. I got to cover a couple issues because I know your time is very valuable and limited. So I want to talk about two things. Number one, Hollywood production.
Yes.
I know that
favorite topic.
Yes, you passed, you enabled some funding to come in and tax credits and things of that nature. Are we really going to be able to compete with these international cities or domestic cities that are really offering these tax credits and are filming for cheaper and are flying, or that are able to have 100 people out there on a production that costs less than having a small 8-person production here in Los Angeles?
Well, I think that we are definitely going to do better now. I was so happy that the tax credits passed. You may or may not know, I don't remember if we talked about this before, but I was able, when I was Speaker of the House in California, able to get the first tax credits done.
Right.
And it was a little tiny bit because we were in a recession.
Right.
But what we were trying to do then was just begin, and over the years, we thought it would grow. Bottom line is it didn't grow fast enough.
Right.
When I was in the legislature, we were worried about Toronto. Nobody talks about Toronto anymore. Now it's Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing about Georgia.
Georgia and Istanbul.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right. So I do think that the industry wants to, and certainly the workforce, and those are good union jobs, middle-class jobs, they want to stay here.
Correct.
I was happy to read in Variety a couple of months ago that as the tax credits were going through, we had, I think it was like 10 or 15 shows return, TV shows, return to Los Angeles to film.
Right.
But so I did my part in terms of advocacy.
Yeah.
But that wasn't enough. I'm not a state legislature. So what we did is that I did an executive directive to do our part in the city. And so what that means is removing hurdles for filming in LA, reducing the cost by reducing the staff that's required, expediting the permits, and then having one individual who was accountable to me directly
Right.
to be the liaison with Film LA and the industry. So I'm hoping that that together will help. But when you look at some states like Georgia, where you can do whatever,
Yeah.
that's also the state that doesn't invest in healthcare and education in their state as well. So, we need to do everything we can. To me, this is part of our identity.
It's absolutely part of our core part of our identity that
Right.
help build the city.
That's everybody stealing.
Now, maybe even more important right now is the mom and pop businesses. Again, I'll just talk about the restaurants because those are higher profile, whether it's Kohl's that is closing down, the Pantry, which is closed down over a century. So many notable restaurants, historic restaurants are closing down. No, Philippe's is staying open.
Oh, they
confirmed,
are? Oh,
confirmed.
okay.
But Dupar's was struggling, Chili John's, some classic places. But it's mom and pops, and it's very difficult to do business in Los Angeles, even as a small business owner myself. I mean, the taxes, the fees, like every month I get a different bill from the city where it's
You
like,
do?
wait, at the beginning of the year, absolutely.
show
We
'em
have
to
we have different things. So what can we do to help small businesses
Right.
thrive in the city?
Right.
Of Los
Well,
Angeles?
first of all, I have a deputy mayor for business and economic development. And one of the things that we did when I was running and throughout my time
Yeah.
is that we've convened businesses. We've asked them to critique what is happening with the city.
Yeah.
They gave us what they wanted to see, and we implemented that. It's a lot, and I can certainly send it to you, but most of it is about red tape in trying
Correct.
to do business with the city.
Absolutely.
So we have made some specific changes, but the other thing that I believe as a policymaker, and this isn't typical, most politicians pass a policy and then walk away to the next policy.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that. If I do a policy, I want to know what happens 6 months later. Is it working?
Right.
Did we do the right thing? What do we need to fix?
So accountability.
Accountability and transparency.
Right.
So show us, like we started, by the way, our one-stop center around the rebuilding after the fires. And I'm constantly asking people what is working and what isn't so
Right.
that we can, improve. So we have worked with businesses. Part of it, of course, is what is out of our control in terms of the general economic
Correct.
environment.
Correct.
The businesses need capital.
Inflation.
We
tariffs, things like that.
there's but we have all these events coming up.
Correct.
How do we make sure that our business community, small business community, not the usual suspects,
Correct.
have access to contracts? And so to me, I want to use the World Cup and all of these events because
World Cup, Super Bowl, and Olympics.
Oh, wait a minute. All-Star basketball game in February.
Right.
U.S. Open for golf for women in May. Then we have the World Cup, 8 games here.
Yeah.
But the World Cup lasts 40 days. So you talk about restaurants,
Yeah.
that's 40 days of hospitality industry because citywide we're going to have fan fests and watch parties and all of that. And we want to work with small businesses to take advantage of that.
Right. Okay. I know we have to wrap up, and I'm sorry we didn't get to everything because there's still so many
I can come back.
pressing issues. I would love a part 2.
Sure.
To make sure your staff hears that as well because there's so much we need to cover. But I want to close with a question from Mommy Honey. How would you rate yourself as a mayor, and how would you rate how you've handled all the situations that have happened in LA?
Well, I don't think it would be a letter grade. I'm the kind of person that is never satisfied. I certainly feel good with a reduction in homelessness and a reduction in crime.
Right.
But when we have a double homicide that happens, and when I still see tents, so I feel good about our progress, but we have so much further to go.
Right.
So much further to go. So I feel good on the one hand, but I don't feel satisfied. And by the way, I haven't solved police hiring.
Right.
I haven't solved the trash until I can say that there's been a significant reduction in the trash and
Yeah.
people are seeing the city cleaner. Until I can say that we're surpassing our goals with police hiring, I won't be satisfied.
And then
But I'm going to keep fighting. I signed up for this.
Right.
I'm not finished. I have more to do, and I'm very committed to getting the job done.
Well, I appreciate that. And Mayor Bass, I appreciate you being here and being so generous with your time. I am going to hold you accountable for a part 2 of this interview so we can cover
I
everything.
volunteered.
Then we can cover everything else. But thank you very much. And thank you for caring about Los Angeles so much. This is the greatest city on the globe. you are the leader. You are the head of this city, and the buck stops at your desk.
Yes, it
And I
does.
appreciate you handling some tough questions and very difficult issues. And 2025 has been a year for this city, and I'm sure you're feeling it the most. But thank you very much. I cannot wait for part 2. And everybody, thank you for watching. Like, follow, subscribe, and Mayor Bass, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me on, and I'll be back.
All right, LA. It's been a minute.